So to start the show today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Big Ben and what his future is like in Pittsburgh. Again, this was kind of reported on earlier last week in Intermittently, and it's something that I found really interesting to talk about because I don't think we would be having this conversation if the Steelers didn't completely collapse last season. And it's funny that we're talking about the future of a team that was the best team in the NFL for legitimately 11 straight weeks last season. They were the best team in the NFL for 11 straight weeks, and then they absolutely collapsed. It was probably one of the biggest midseason collapses I think anybody has seen in recent memory. And I'm not talking about organizationally, because I think you can make the argument that the Philadelphia Eagles, the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, those teams have had gigantic organizational collapses faster than literally Thanos can snap his fingers. But in terms of a player or a team collapse like in the middle of the season, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2020. And obviously, as you all know, they got bounced out of the wildcard round by the Cleveland Browns, which must have been humiliating for them. And now, instead of talking about what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do to be able to get back into the playoffs, we're now more changing the discussion to saying, are the Pittsburgh Steelers even going to be remotely close to making the playoffs? They've got a lot of financial decisions to make. They've got a lot of players that they should really think about whether or not they actually want those players to return. Literally, one of the first videos I ever made with this podcast is talking about the Steelers' image problem that they have and how they're a little bit too swaggery. They're a little bit too cool-headed, a lot about I'm better than you and I don't have to practice as hard. That the general feeling that the Steelers were giving off towards the back end of the season about, how they were presenting themselves. So they have a lot of decisions to make about the personnel that they want and the financial decisions that they need to make. And one of those big financial decisions to bring this all the way back around is with big Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger has a ginormous cap hit coming up this season. I think it was something like, it's something ridiculous, like maybe $40 million. I don't know why the number 40 million is sticking out in my head. I hope that's correct. If not, it's a big cap hit. The important thing is it's a gigantic cap hit. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers would want to bring him back. Ben has already said that he is willing to restructure his contract to come play another season in Pittsburgh, as opposed to retiring and just nixing the contract altogether. And the question... There's a lot of questions that all revolve around the same question. And that question is, what is Pittsburgh really getting out of Big Ben Roethlisberger? What are they getting out of Big Ben that A, they can't get anywhere else, B, they can't sign, and C, they just generally want? What are they getting out of Big Ben? And it's not necessarily financial security, because he has a ginormous cap hit. He's going to take and restructure his contract a little bit, but that's not going to completely erase the massive amount that I'm sure, Big Ben is going to want to be paid. In my mind, the reason and the thing that keeps Big Ben in Pittsburgh is the reality that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have to go and find a quarterback just yet. Big Ben is security in the now, in the sense that if you don't have Ben Roethlisberger this upcoming season, you're going to have a quarterback that you're not comfortable with and probably isn't going to get you anywhere. And those quarterbacks are Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. The Pittsburgh Steelers really aren't in a position to go and trade for a quarterback at this point. At least I don't think so. Depends on what kind of salary cap that they can muster over the next couple of weeks leading up till free agency and the start of the new NFL season. The Steelers really aren't in a position to trade. They really aren't in a position to go and sign a free agent quarterback. They might be able to sign somebody like Ryan Fitzpatrick to a minimum veteran deal, about $1 million. That is a viable option, but regardless of that, Big Ben really is a security blanket at this point, not financially, but in terms of the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the moment that the Pittsburgh Steelers move on for Ben Roethlisberger, regardless of the cap hit that he is bringing to the football team, the moment that the Steelers move on from Ben Roethlisberger, that is the moment that the rebuild officially starts for the Steelers. Because regardless of what, Big Ben was able to do the last couple of seasons, he was injured and he didn't play all that great last season. There are still he is still a better option than most quarterbacks that are on the market currently. And truth be told, I don't have a lot of faith in Dwayne Haskins. I don't have any faith in Mason Rudolph. Nothing that he showed me while Big Ben was hurt the previous season showed me that he can be anywhere remotely close to a starting caliber quarterback. And that's idealistically what the Pittsburgh Steelers see as well, regardless of the cap hit that Roethlisberger brings to the Steelers. And of course, again, it's really good to see, and it's very loyal of Ben Roethlisberger to be able to want to renegotiate his contract to be able to help the Steelers out in their financial troubles. But regardless of what that number is, Big Ben Roethlisberger is a security blanket and an assurance that the Steelers don't have to go too far into the future just yet. And that comfortability, that ability to say, okay, let's focus on the now, let's continue to let's stay in win now mode, that security and that feeling is really good for the front office. That's really good for the general manager. And that's really good for the culture of the football team. And that's the reason why you keep Big Ben around. It's not a situation of, well, can he still play? Well, is he going to have enough weapons? Well, is he going to be able to produce like we know that he could have in the past? And, you know, the reality is that maybe not. Maybe he can't produce at that same level, but it doesn't matter because what you're getting out of Big Ben Roethlisberger is another year of security. It's another year of saying, okay, we don't have to make a decision right now like most teams have to do when a quarterback is on the verge of retirement. We don't have to make a decision right now. We don't have to trade anybody else. We don't have to fiddle around with our cap space more than we already have to, especially because the Steelers, again, are in a bit of a contract or cap space situation. Big Ben brings that security, and that's why you keep him around. That is what Pittsburgh is keeping around Big Ben Roethlisberger for, if they do consider and they do end up keeping him around. Because again, the moves that the general office has, that the general manager and the front office has made, has suggested that they're not exactly interested in bringing him back, but I think if you do, it's really just because there are no other options out there, and he brings you that security that at least you have a quarterback that knows the offense, you have a quarterback that is respected by his teammates, and you don't have to have a wasted season with a quarterback that is unproven or just plain not good enough. Because I don't think, Dwayne Haskins is definitely not proven. I don't think that he proved anything in his time in Washington, and Mason Rudolph has proved to me, or at least has shown me, that he's not really a starting caliber quarterback, regardless of what offensive weapons he has, regardless of what kind of offensive line he has. So at the end of the day, what is Pittsburgh getting out of Big Ben Roethlisberger? They're getting security, and security is a very underrated aspect to the dynamics of building a good football team. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.